Welcome to the finale, the last lesson in commerce, the environment. So as we go on in an effort to make profit, to make money, and up to now, we have learned different ways in which you can make a business. When we looked at business units, we have also looked at ways to make your products and services to be known to the people through advertising. We have looked at ways to transport your products. We have looked at all these ways which can help us to learn how to make money. But as we do all these, we can end up harming the environment. Okay, so the environment would may end up suffering because we're just trying to make some cash. Okay, so this last lesson is going to be focused on looking at those effects that commerce has on the environment. So we know that production activities basically involve converting raw materials into goods and services. So you're going to convert raw materials into goods and services. For example, you can get a raw material such as petroleum oil, then you use it to make a plastic. Okay, so as you do that, you may end up harming the environment in one way or the other. So always be cautious of the effect your pursuit for money has on the environment. So we're going to start with looking at some of the key effects of production on the environment that we can identify. So these are just some effects of production or commerce on the environment that we can identify. Okay, so the first is littering. Okay, so littering is basically the careless disposal of waste materials such as plastics, papers, and cans. Okay, it leads to a dirty and unhealthy environment. So it can happen that maybe you have a factory, so you make, okay, factory seems to be a bit far for most of you. So I would say a simple business, maybe a cakery. Okay, is it called a cakery, where you sell cakes and you bake cakes and sell them. So as you are packaging your cakes, you may need maybe to cut some plastic from the package where you want to put the cake. So those plastics, you may just throw them anyhow. That is littering, meaning that production or commerce has affected the environment, because the environment is going to look dirty and it can even result in diseases. Okay, the other effect that we can identify is pollution. So there are basically three types of pollution, and pollution is a general term used to refer to the making of the environment dirty. Okay, in short, littering is pollution. Okay, but of course, since littering is common, so I've treated it as an independent effect that we can identify. So there are basically three types of pollution, though we're going to discuss four, okay, because the fourth one is also common. Okay, but the three main types of pollution are air pollution, which is just the making of the air dirty, such as from factory emissions and smokes. Okay, as you are doing production, maybe some smoke can be released to the environment, and this smoke may harm the air or may make the air dirty. So at the end of the day, we're going to have air pollution. Then we also have water pollution, which is the making of water dirty, such as when you throw garbage in water. Okay. Then the third one is land pollution, which is the making of the land dirty, such as littering. Okay. Then the fourth one is noise pollution, which is the emission of unwanted excessive noise, such as by bars and taverns, okay, where they play their music very loud and they forget that they're surrounded by residential houses, especially in townships like Kanyama, Chibolia, Zambia compound in KTC. Then Another identifiable effect of uh, production on the environment is degradation. Okay, so degradation refers to the destruction or decline in the quality of the natural environment, including soil erosion, okay, loss of fertility, and destruction of ecosystems. By loss of fertility, I mean where the soil loses fertility. Okay, where now maybe this year you plant some maize and they are growing well. Next year, due to the effects of commerce on the environment, then the maize they fail to grow. Okay, an interesting example is for farmers. So people are involved in the business of farming, so they may be putting fertilizer to the soil. Okay, so yes, the plants, the maize may grow well, but somehow they may be destroying the soil such that the soil is unable to grow the maize next time. Okay, so that is an example of degradation. Okay, so those are the three identifiable effects. Okay, now we're going to look at the actual effect that production has on the environment. Like how does it actually affect the environment? Okay, so the first is production can cause diseases. Okay, because of some or all of the identifiable effects that we have discussed, it can end up causing diseases. Okay, so pollution from factories and vehicles can cause health problems like respiratory infections such as bronchitis, skin diseases, and waterborne illness such as cholera. Okay, another effect is displacement. So when land is cleared for industries or commercial use, communities and wildlife may be forced to relocate. Okay, for communities, sometimes it might not seem to be a big issue, but people may be used to their land. Maybe it's a village. It's the village that it's the land that their ancestors left for them. Then because you have discovered gold in that village, so you want to start a mine. In the process, you push people away, and that can result in people being displaced. And wildlife, since no one speaks for wildlife, it can even be worse. The other effect is deforestation. Okay, so cutting down trees, deforestation is just cutting down of trees. Okay, so cutting down of trees for raw materials or land results in loss of forests, affecting the balance of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Okay, so you want to set up a factory, so you cut down the trees. You want to start a big farm to plant maize. I mean, not a big farm, a big field or maize field where you want to be planting maize. Now there are trees, you cut down the trees. Okay, the result is there is going to be loss of forest. The balance of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is going to be affected, and also it can affect the rainfall pattern, resulting in droughts. Okay, then another one is loss of culture and tradition. So commerce can result in the loss of culture and tradition. So some development destroy sacred sites and traditional landmarks, leading to the erosion of culture heritage. Okay, so maybe there is a place in a given village where maybe it's used for whatever cultural ritual that a given group of people respect. Okay, so because of production, because you want to set up an industry there, you may end up destroying that. Okay, and people stop doing that, meaning that you have taken away their culture and tradition. Okay, so that's another effect of commerce on the environment. So in future, if you are not already bosses, when you become bosses, when you're going to be in the decision making of production, okay, always remember that production can affect the environment, it can affect people. So always keep that in mind as you are planning. Okay, now with all these effects that we have identified, what can be done? Is there something that can be done to reduce the effects? Yes, there is. So the possible solutions to environmental effects are: one, civic education. Okay, so civic education, yes, it's the same civic education that you know, a subject. Okay, but the main focus of that civic education, or of this civic education that we're discussing here, is to educate the public about the importance of protecting the environment, so as to encourage responsible behavior. Okay, so if people are told that cutting down of trees can result in droughts, then they, if they want to have ample rainfall, or if they like the rainfall pattern, they don't want to destroy it, then they don't have to cut trees. Okay, a good example of this is charcoal burning, or cutting down of trees so as to make charcoal. So this is a common practice in Zambia, okay, where people cut down trees to make charcoal so as to make money. That is production, that is commerce. Okay, so at the end of the day, as they are doing that, they are affecting the environment in two ways. Cutting down the trees affects the balance of oxygen and carbon dioxide, and also the rainfall pattern. Burning the same trees to make charcoal, it produces smoke, which causes air pollution. So that is affecting the environment in two ways. So if people are educated and they know that this is not good for the environment and can end up destroying them, then people are going to know that it's wrong, and they'll stop doing it. Okay, so that's the importance of civic education. Then another one is provision of dustbins, especially in towns. Okay, so if you put dustbins in some places, so that if someone buys H2MBOA, by H2MBOA, maybe you don't know what H2MBOA is. I've used Lusaka Nyanja. H2MBOA, it's is it a frita? Yeah. So if someone buys, or a cream donut, um, so if someone buys a cream donut, then they, after eating, they have some plastic. Maybe they were, they needed something to eat, so they buy and they eat as they walk. Okay, I know some of you may consider that to be bad manners, but for others, it may not. Okay, so someone eats that, then they remain with the plastic. They want to throw it. Now, if there's no dustbin nearby, they cannot. Some people are not used to holding a plastic they're not using in their hands, looking for where they can throw it. So they end up throwing it anywhere. Okay, so it's better you provide dustbins, so that if they are near, someone can just go and throw in the dustbin. Okay, not where they go 1 kilometers or whatsoever without seeing a dustbin. Then they may be tempted to throw it anywhere. Okay, as a result, we are going to have a situation of littering. Next, planting of trees. Okay, so reforestation, which is the opposite of deforestation. Deforestation is cutting down of trees. Reforestation is planting trees. That is recreating the forest. Okay, so reforestation efforts help restore lost forests. In effect, they improve air quality and provide habitats for wildlife. So habitats are homes for wildlife. So since trees have been cut, so there's need to deforest. Okay, a good project is the one in Copperbelt, between Copperbelt and Kitwe, where they have planted lots of trees. I think it's eucalyptus or blue gum tree. I'm not sure. But they look like blue gum trees from afar. Yeah, so they have planted lots of of these trees, and it's nice. Okay, and the rainfall there, it's nice, like it rains. Okay, so that's a good example of how reforestation can contribute to good air, habitats for wildlife, and of course improvement of air quality. Also, government intervention. Okay, so governments can pass and enforce environmental laws such as controlling emissions and waste disposal. So in Zambia, the government body that is in charge of making sure that people who are in commerce are not destroying the environment is ZEMA. Okay, so ZEMA, ZEMA, is is the organization or the body that is in charge of protecting the environment from the harmful effects of commerce. So for those who may not know, ZEMA, ZEMA, stands for Zambia Zambia Environmental Management Agency. Zambia Environmental Management Agency. I will write can I write here? Let me see if I can write. No. it may take time anyway. So ZEMA stands for Zambia Environmental Management Agency. I will write the meaning in the description. Okay. So what are some of the ways in which we can control or we can reduce the negative impact of commerce on the environment? We can use community involvement. Okay, so we can when people take part in cleanup campaigns and conservation projects, it promotes collective responsibility. So you make people as a community to clean up the community. In the process, it will make them do things with one mind, knowing that everyone wants to make this city clean. Okay, so that's another way of solving environmental effects. So most of the times, these are actions that can be taken when a possible effect of the environment of commerce on the environment has been identified. For example, if you see that, okay, in Mtendere there's too much littering, then you do such a campaign, and then people, at least they'll be pushed to know that everyone cares about how Mtendere looks. Okay. Next, corporate social responsibility, CSR, corporate social responsibility. So the key words here are corporate and social. So corporate, it's companies like Zambia Railways, ZESCO, these ZAMTEL, these are corporate, right? Then these corporate, they have social responsibilities, okay, which are things they do for the community. Okay, so the term is called corporate social responsibility. Okay, so companies can play their part by reducing emissions, using eco-friendly materials, and supporting green projects. Okay, so they can go in the community, identify green projects, and support them. Okay, they can also just be conscious that whatever they're going to do, they have to reduce the impact on the environment. Okay, because by doing so, they are going to protect people. Even if they're not making profit from people, they have to be concerned. So that is a corporate social responsibility. Okay, and the most effective is recycling. Okay, so this is reusing and processing waste materials to help reduce the need for raw materials and minimize environmental damage. So instead of, when you are done with packaging your cake, instead of just throwing those plastics, you may keep them. Okay, later you can join them and use them as packages for later. that is recycling in a simple way. But of course, on large scale, it may need maybe all the papers in the community to be collected. Once they are collected, they are used to make new packages. Okay, instead of getting raw materials, because most of the times converting raw materials to useful products, it may involve polluting the environment by means of air pollution, because maybe there will be burning that's going to be involved. Okay, and all those chemical processes can result into poisonous wastes. Okay, so if that is the case, it's better you use um, the products that you have already produced from raw materials. So once they are used, you get them back, you use them again, you keep on reusing. Okay, so recycling is one of the most important ways to deal with the effects of commerce on the environment. So this marks the end of this lesson, the last lesson in commerce, but we may have one more lesson, just some sort of a recap and some emphasis on some parts that were not emphasized before. Okay, so make sure that you, if of course you have learned commerce using all our videos, make sure that you also look at that last part. See you in the next lesson.